Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thank you very much for tuning in and being on my channel and following me as I explore this amazing, incredible wide world of pens, and I do enjoy doing that, and I enjoy sharing it with you. And hopefully you enjoy watching me explore this incredible world. And there's definitely a pen worthy of exploring, rotating on a turntable. It's certainly an interesting pen. Year of the Dragon is the theme. Has some interesting details on it. I purchased this pen and then I watched the fountain pen therapy video review of it, and Vincento had a problem with his pen, and hopefully I have no problems with this one. It arrived safely, ready for me to show it to you. So my pen friends are watching it twirl around and saying, it looks pretty nice. And we're going to explore this in detail. And as usual, Hongdian has done a great job from the design, engineering, construction, build quality that we've come to expect from them. So stay tuned for this incredible pen review. Hope you enjoy it. So first impressions are always a good sign. When you pick up this pen, it has decent weight to it. The cap feels great. Nothing feels like a polished piece of wood. I love the matte finish. I'm not really a fan of a jewel in the clip, but it works in this design. Have an interesting dragon on that finial at the top of the cap. Little flare out here at the top. Interesting design element. But really, the winner is this ornate three-dimensional dragon that is part of the barrel. A lot of detail there. Interesting inscription. We'll see if we can translate it. But I like it. And the finial at the bottom of the barrel matches the wood in the cap. The cap comes off in 1 1/4 turns, which we've come to expect from Hongdian, and we'll see a very, very ornate nib, two-tone. Unfortunately, it only came in fine and extra fine, but I've enjoyed the recent Hongdian nibs, and no matter what size they are, and that standard kind of upgraded feed. Plastic section, you don't feel those threads. Interesting dark chrome here, which we've seen on a few other Hongdians. A geometric design there and that little band. So it feels good and fits fine in the hand unposted. You notice how the nib and dragon line up. We'll see after I take it apart if that's still the case. Again, this is not a pen that I would post. I'm not a poster. I mean, it just sits there. It's very high. The cap is light, so it doesn't change the balance much at all. But not designed to do that, and not something that I would do. Pen Therapy has a crack in their cap, maybe because of posting. As one would expect, it's a cartridge converter. And yes, there is a nice O-ring there to secure that in the last turns of the thread when you put the barrel back on. Your classic Hongdian converter with a little plastic ball in it, which I will remove. Very secure. Nice metal band there, insert there, so long life is expected. Metal section, we look inside the cap, we see metal threads. So it's, as usual, good design, good execution, a pen worthy to be representative of the new year of the dragon. Every time we get a Hongdian pen, we wonder, where did they put the model identifier? And if we look down at the bottom of this carving, we'll see Hongdian, and we'll see the model N24. I mean, that's nice. Hopefully you can appreciate the incredible detail of this dragon. I'm pretty certain it's a casting, and it has some type of gold wash coloring applied to the outside of it. Very artistically done and really works well in this pen. Kudos again to Hongdian for providing us with a piece of art that functions as a writing instrument that we enjoy. At least I certainly enjoy it. So I mentioned how things line up, the clip with this dragon. But the cap is multi-threaded. Comes off in like almost less than 1 1/4 turns. But if you don't start it in the right thread, as you can see, the clip doesn't line up with the dragon. So I think there's 3 starting points. There's the other one. And there's the third one. So start it with the dragon head to the left side of the clip, and then when you put it up 1 1/4 turns, puts that right in alignment. Just a little bit of a trick that you need to learn. And obviously the nib still lines up too, but you know, this has been unscrewed and screwed, just single threaded, but that's a good design. Paying attention to detail. You know, multiple different machines make these parts. Making certain they all fit together well is a good feat of manufacturing engineering. So here we are in really dark mode. So let's explore the pen with the LED. Yeah, wood grain is very nice on the subtle side. Look inside the cap, we'll see that metal ring there at the bottom, which is great for a wooden cap. And then we'll see a plastic liner which covers the whole inside of the cap, and there's the threads. So it's a good design. Not certain why it might crack, but anything made out of wood can crack. Environmental issues. The LED certainly shows off the three-dimensional nature of this barrel. If we look inside, we'll see the underside of that casting. It's a little rough, kind of hard to see. There we go. So this is a casting probably made out of tin or some inexpensive metal which has a low melting point and is easy to cast. Could be in a rubber mold, which is what I used to do when I was in jewelry. And then after it's cast, it gets a plating or a wash of some gold color, this matte gold color, which I think is really nice. Kudos to Hongdian. So to put the Year of the Dragon pen in perspective, here we have a D5, which is a decent sized pen, M800, which looks small in this group, and a Pilot Metropolitan, just for those that want that comparison, and a Jinhao 9019, which is obviously the girthiest of these pens, but the N24 holds its own. It's certainly a thick pen. Lengthwise, all of these are in that same ballpark, but generally, unless a pen is exceptionally long, what you really notice is the girth and the width, the weight, how the weight's distributed. That affects more the writing experience than the actual length of the pen. This is for your comparison. Here we are uncapped, and again, length is very similar, but certainly the sections are very different from all of these 5 pens. Let's take a look at that a little bit more closely. So obviously the large nib on the Jinhao dominates this group of nibs, but these 4 definitely have very interesting visual characteristics. They also write very well. This is a great two-tone with that interesting dragon-like engraving on it. Here's that nice black nib that's in the D5, at least this version of it. And you'll notice the pattern on this section looks like the A25 pattern. And the M800 has that shortest section. Girth-wise, it's okay. It's in between the N24 and the 9019, and of course the Metropolitan is just small and tiny. So this ink just called out to me to put into the pen. Yes, it's part of the Diamine Shimmer series. Comes in a nice box. And inside the box is an interesting pamphlet. The back is perfect, giving you instructions and best use case. And some promotional material that describes the ink. And of course, we have the paper towel example of wiping off the nib after filling, wiping off the top of the bottle. And yes, there's some shimmer in that ink, certainly not the bashful type. So I think the diamine ink works well in this N24 with a fine nib. And it does show off the shimmer in the ink. This is just a splotch because I left the pen on the pad and it put some ink down by itself. So this nib is not as smooth as my other Hongdian fine nibs. It's, some might call, scratchy. I've ridden with it a little bit. I had a viewer talk about nibs that might require some break-in period, and this nib is certainly one of those. And I may go to some smoothing, which accelerates the break-in period by having a more abrasive surface. But overall, it's still a good writer, lays down a nice line, fairly wet, and this ink color works great. In doing my usual research on a new pen like this, I saw a posting on Facebook, I don't know which group. There is an A24 version of this N24 by Hongdian. Here's what it looks like. Now, it looks like it's the same dragon on the cap versus the dragon on the barrel. The other thing that's interesting is no clip. It's a tassel pen, which is quite unusual in today's world. Back in those vintage days, it was a very common design, but it has now made a resurgence and Hongdian has adopted it. So it's just unbelievable. Again, the wide world of pens from Hongdian. Here's some that are posted on Etsy as when I'm doing this video. And I think from what I've read, most people are very, very pleased with their Hongdian pens. Do you have one? So we're getting near the conclusion of this review. Here are some dimensions for your viewing pleasure. So overall, I like the pen, but as with any pen with a very strong character, this pen is not for everybody and not for every place. Great desk pen. And that's what I think its main purpose in life is. Certainly not something I'd want to carry around in my pocket for various reasons. And not something I'd want to carry around in my notebook or in my backpack or whatever. It's just not that kind of pen. But it is a pen to admire, to look at. The materials used I find to be very interesting. And yes, that green cabochon there in the clip is certainly an interesting touch. You know, the top finial, flat ends, nice dragon. So people always ask about recommending pens, best pens, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, to me, every pen has a particular place for me. That place might be in my drawer, uninked, but it's a place. Or this pen, I think I'll at least going to use it until the fill runs out, and then I'll probably fill it again with this ink because it just works well. And I did a little smoothing on the nib, just a little bit, and now the nib is smooth. You still get that feedback. It's a little bit stronger than the pencil feedback, but not much, and I don't mind feedback at all. Lets you know you're writing with a pen. So with that, let's do a final write-up and say, see you later. So the nib has a little bounce to it. Yeah, if you put pressure on it, it'll open up, but not something you're going to do every day. And pressure only on the downstroke, not on the horizontal strokes. Don't do that. So again, I enjoy writing with this pen. I certainly do enjoy the ink. It'll be in a lot of letters. So we've reached the end of this video. I'd like to thank all of you for watching. I hope this video finds everyone safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, putting some ink down, sharing thoughts, even with yourself at a later date. So we reached the end of this video, and we will say bye. Very consistent, very nice writer. Good pen.